Ship Odyssey Dawn moved slowly through the dark space above a world of blue crystals. Captain Ethan Cole looked out of the window and felt a strange mix of fear and wonder. The planet, called Alaris 4, was known as the home of the Alarian Empire. It was their first true contact with this alien race. The mission was simple but important. They had to meet, talk, and build peace. But deep inside, Ethan knew that peace was never simple. When the ship landed, bright light filled the sky. The ground below shimmered like glass, and huge towers of crystal rose into the clouds. The air was clear but carried a hum, like music coming from the ground itself. Ethan and his small team walked down the ramp wearing light suits. The air was safe to breathe, but it felt too pure, almost unreal. They were greeted by tall, thin beings who moved with calm grace. Their skin glowed faintly, and their eyes looked like silver water. The Alarian guard stood in silence as their leader walked forward. Ethan knew her name from the mission files, Princess Lyra of House Sael. She was young, only 19 by human measure, but her people lived for centuries. Her beauty was otherworldly, sharp and soft at the same time. Yet her face showed no emotion, no smile, only cold curiosity. Ethan bowed slightly, trying to be respectful but not weak. "Captain Ethan Cole, representing Earth and the United Human Colonies," he said. His voice was calm, though he could feel his heart beating fast. The princess tilted her head. Her voice was smooth and quiet, but it carried power. "You are smaller than I expected, human." Ethan smiled a little. "We make up for that with stubbornness." A few of the alien guards gave strange looks, but the princess said nothing. She turned and began to walk toward the shining palace made of blue glass. Ethan followed with 2 members of his team, trying not to stare too much at the beauty around him. Every wall seemed alive with light, every shadow moving like a dream. Inside, they were brought to a large room filled with floating shapes of crystal. The air hummed gently. The princess stopped and turned to him again. "Our people do not understand humans," she said. "You build metal ships, you fight among yourselves, and yet you reach the stars." Ethan nodded. "We fight, yes, but we also dream. That's what got us here." Her eyes studied him like he was a puzzle. She stepped closer, her silver gaze scanning his face. "You are not beautiful," she said softly, almost to herself. "Your skin is uneven, your eyes dull compared to ours. Your body looks unfinished." Ethan felt the tension in the air but only smiled. "We don't aim for perfect. We just try to be real." For the first time, the princess blinked in surprise. She did not understand how someone could speak so calmly after being called imperfect. Her people valued perfection above all things. Every Alarian face was carefully shaped by science and tradition. To them, beauty meant control. But this human laughed in the face of their rules. Later, they were seated for the first formal talk. The Alarian council members watched from a distance. Ethan tried to speak clearly, choosing simple words that carried respect. He explained that humans came in peace, that they wanted friendship, trade, and understanding. The council members listened, their faces unreadable. After the meeting, Princess Lyra asked to speak with him alone. They walked in a garden filled with glowing plants. Strange insects floated in the air, leaving trails of light behind them. She stopped near a small pool of water that reflected the stars. "Human," she said softly, her voice almost curious. "Why do you smile when you speak?" "It is unusual." Ethan looked at her reflection in the water. "Maybe because we don't hide what we feel. It helps others know we mean no harm." Lyra looked away, confused. "My people hide emotion. We are taught that feeling leads to weakness." "Maybe," he said gently, "but sometimes it also leads to strength." She turned to face him fully now. The light from the plants painted her face in soft blue and green. For a long moment, she just stared at him. Then in a quiet voice, she asked, "Do you find me ugly, human?" Ethan blinked in surprise. The question was so sudden that he almost laughed, and then he did. It was a short, warm laugh that echoed in the still garden. The princess looked startled, as if no one had ever dared to laugh near her before. "Ugly?" Ethan said, shaking his head with a smile. "No, you're just different." "Maybe that's what makes you beautiful." Lyra's silver eyes widened. She had been called many things in her life, perfect, flawless, divine, but never beautiful in that simple, honest way. His words carried no fear, no false praise. It was the first time she felt seen as something more than an image of perfection. The wind moved gently around them, and the glowing leaves rustled softly. Ethan looked up at the stars. "Maybe our worlds aren't so different," he said quietly. Lyra said nothing, but for the first time she felt a strange warmth in her chest. She did not know it yet, but something had begun to change inside her. A small spark of human emotion, fragile and bright. The next morning on Alaris 4 was quiet. The sky shimmered with soft colors as if the light itself was alive. Captain Ethan Cole stood on the balcony of the guest chambers, watching the twin suns rise. He had not slept much. His thoughts kept returning to the princess and the strange question she had asked. Her voice, calm yet unsure, had stayed in his mind. He wondered what kind of life she lived, trapped between duty and curiosity. When Ethan stepped out into the main hall, 2 Ilarian guards were waiting for him. Their movements were smooth and silent. One of them spoke. "The princess requests your presence in the light garden." Ethan nodded and followed them. The halls were bright with flowing streams of color running through the walls like rivers of light. It was hard not to be amazed. Everything about this world was so perfect, so clean, that it almost felt unnatural. When they reached the garden, Lyra stood beside a tree that seemed to be made of glass. Its leaves glowed gently. She turned when she saw him and said, "You walk without fear, human." "That is rare," Ethan smiled slightly. "Maybe because fear does not help much in strange places." She studied him again. "You speak so simply, yet your words are honest. My people speak with careful words, always hiding the truth behind beauty. You do not." "Maybe that is what makes us human," Ethan said. "We make mistakes, but we mean what we say." Lyra walked closer, her steps silent. "You said yesterday that I was not ugly, that I was beautiful because I was different. Did you mean it?" Ethan looked at her and nodded. "Yes. Where I come from, beauty isn't about perfection. It's about life, about being real." The princess looked down, her long fingers touching the glowing petals of a flower. "Our people remove every flaw. We are shaped before birth to be perfect. But sometimes I wonder if we lost something in that search." Ethan could see a sadness in her eyes. He spoke softly. "Sometimes flaws remind us that we are alive." They walked together through the garden. The air was warm, and soft sounds of light humming came from the trees. It was peaceful, but there was tension too. The Ilarian Council did not like humans. They believed emotions made species weak. They wanted trade and knowledge, not friendship. Later that day, the meeting between the human team and the Ilarian Council took place in the Hall of Voices. Ethan stood at the center while tall, shining figures surrounded him. The council leader, Lord Sareth, spoke in a cold tone. "Your people are reckless. You destroy your own world, yet you come to ours asking for peace. Why should we trust you?" Ethan answered calmly. "Because we learn from our mistakes. We are not perfect, but we grow. That is how we survive." The council members exchanged looks. Sareth turned to Lyra. "Princess, do you believe these words?" Lyra hesitated. Everyone waited for her to speak. She finally said, "He speaks truth. Humans are not perfect, but they are real. I believe that is worth something." Whispers filled the hall. Some were shocked, others angry. No Ilarian royal had ever spoken in favor of an alien before. Ethan felt both grateful and worried. Her words had power, and power could be dangerous. When the meeting ended, Ethan was escorted back to his quarters. That night he stood by the window again, looking at the glowing city. He could see distant ships moving between the towers. His communicator buzzed quietly. It was a message from Lyra. "Meet me in the lower gardens, alone." He hesitated for a moment, then went. The guards did not stop him. It seemed she had given the order. The lower gardens were darker, quieter. Strange blue mist floated above the ground. Lyra stood near a small lake that shone like a mirror. "You should not be here," she said softly when he approached. "If the council finds out, it could cause trouble." "You called me here," Ethan replied. "Why?" She looked away, unsure. "Because I do not understand you. Humans are loud, emotional, unpredictable. Yet you are brave. You laugh even when others judge you. I cannot stop thinking about that laugh. It is alive." Tethan smiled gently. "Maybe you need to laugh too." Lyra blinked. "I do not know how," he chuckled. "Then let's start small. You don't have to be perfect, princess." "No one is." She looked at him again. There was a small light in her eyes, something new, something fragile. She wanted to understand what he meant. "On Alaris, perfection is everything. But when you speak, I feel that maybe perfection is empty." Ethan nodded slowly. "Sometimes chasing perfection makes us forget how to live." They stood in silence for a moment, listening to the soft hum of the garden. The night air felt cool, and the twin moons reflected on the water. Lyra spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. My people will not accept your kind easily. They fear what they do not control. Then maybe it's time they learn that control isn't everything, Ethan said. For a long time, they just looked at each other. Lyra felt her heart beating faster, something she had never noticed before. No Ilarian felt emotion so strongly. She did not know what it meant, but she did not want it to stop. Ethan finally broke the silence. If we can show them that humans and Ilarian can work together, maybe it will change things. Lyra nodded slowly. Maybe, but the council will not listen easily. They believe emotion is a weakness, Ethan smiled again. Then let's show them it's a strength. When he left the garden that night, Lyra stayed behind, watching his figure disappear into the mist. She felt something she could not name. It was warm, strange, and alive. She placed her hand over her chest and whispered to herself, maybe he is right. Maybe imperfection is beautiful. Above her, the stars of Alaris shone brightly, and for the first time in her life, Princess Lyra wished she could see the world through human eyes. Days passed quietly after the secret meeting in the lower gardens. Captain Ethan Cole continued his duties, trying to help the human team finish their part of the peace talks. But the Ilarian Council grew more suspicious. They watched every move, whispering among themselves that humans were dangerous, that they brought chaos with them. Ethan could feel the tension growing. Even his team had noticed it. Princess Lyra spent her days in silence, but her thoughts were never still. She often looked out at the horizon, remembering Ethan's laughter and his strange way of speaking. He made her see her world in a new light. For the first time in her life, she questioned the rules that had guided her since birth. Her tutors had told her that emotions clouded reason, that feeling anything deeply was weakness. But when she was around Ethan, she did not feel weak at all. She felt alive. One morning, she visited the Hall of Reflection, a place where light itself was shaped into memories. The walls glowed with moving pictures from her people's history. She saw scenes of perfection, beautiful, controlled, and calm. But to her, they suddenly seemed empty. There was no warmth, no joy, no life. That same day, she sent a message to Ethan asking to meet again. He agreed without hesitation. They met in a small chamber that overlooked the city. The view was breathtaking, filled with towers of blue light and streams of flying ships. But the air between them was heavy with things unsaid. You should not meet me like this again, Lyra said softly. If they find out, it will bring trouble for both of us. Ethan nodded but smiled. I'm already in trouble for just being human here. Lyra almost smiled, but she held it back. You do not understand how serious this is. The council fears you. They fear that you will make others question the old ways. They say emotions are like fire, beautiful but destructive. Maybe they're right about the fire part, Ethan said quietly. But sometimes fire is what keeps us alive. Lyra looked at him carefully. Your kind is strange, human. You are small and fragile, yet your spirit burns so bright. I cannot decide if it is foolish or brave. Maybe a little of both, Ethan said with a grin. His simple answer made her blink in surprise again. Every word he said was free of fear and full of life. It made her feel something she had never known, a soft warmth spreading through her chest. A sound came from the doorway. They both turned, but no one was there. Still, Ethan felt uneasy. He knew they were being watched. The meeting ended quickly, but that moment stayed in both their minds. Later that evening in the council chamber, Lord Sereth spoke with anger. Princess Lyra, it has come to our attention that you spend time alone with the human. This behavior is unacceptable. Lyra stood tall, her silver eyes calm. He is our guest. It is my duty to understand his kind. Your duty is to protect Alaris from contamination, Sereth said coldly. Humans are unstable. Their emotions will spread like a sickness if we allow it. Maybe it is not a sickness, she said softly. Maybe it is a part of being alive, the council gasped. Sereth's face grew hard. You speak like one of them. Perhaps I have learned from them, she replied, her voice calm but firm. The meeting ended in silence, but everyone knew this was not over. Word spread quickly across the palace. The princess had defended a human. Some were shocked, others afraid. Ethan heard about it from one of the younger guards who warned him to be careful. That night as he walked through the quiet halls, Ethan found Lyra waiting near the crystal garden. She looked troubled but determined. You should leave Alaris soon, she said. They are planning to end the talks. The council believes humans are a danger to our order. Ethan frowned. And what do you believe? She hesitated before answering. I believe you are different. You have shown me something my people lost long ago. Ethan stepped closer. Then let me help you remind them. Lyra looked up at him, her eyes glowing faintly under the moonlight. You do not understand. The council would rather destroy what they fear than learn from it. If they think you are changing me, they will not stop until you are gone. Ethan sighed, his voice low. Then maybe I should go. But I want you to know something before I do. You made me believe that maybe even the most perfect world can still change. Her expression softened. She wanted to say more, but words failed her. The silence between them said what both of them already knew. They had become something more than allies. Suddenly, alarms echoed across the city. Red lights flashed through the sky. The palace guards ran past them, shouting orders. Lyra turned sharply. Something is wrong. The humans are being accused of spying. Ethan's communicator beeped. A voice from his team shouted, Captain, they're locking down the landing zone. They think we tried to steal data from their archives. Ethan's face hardened. We didn't do anything. Someone is setting us up. Lyra looked torn. The council will not listen. You must escape before it is too late. He shook his head. I can't leave my crew behind. She took his hand suddenly, her touch cold but trembling. Please, Ethan, if they capture you, they will not spare you. Go now. I will try to speak for you. Ethan hesitated, looking at her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. If I leave, it won't be forever. I'll come back when it's safe. Lyra's voice broke softly. Humans always say such foolish things. Ethan smiled sadly. Maybe that's what makes us human. As he disappeared into the shadows, Lyra stood alone beneath the glowing sky. Her heart ached with something she could not name. Fear, sadness, hope. Emotions she had never felt before. The world of Ilaris had begun to change, and so had she. Night fell quickly on Ilaris 4 as the alarms echoed through the shining city. The calm beauty of the crystal towers was replaced by red warning lights flashing across the sky. Captain Ethan Cole ran through the empty corridors of the palace, his heart pounding hard. His communicator buzzed again. One of his crew shouted, Captain, we're surrounded near the landing zone. The guards won't let us reach the ship. What do we do? Ethan whispered back, stay hidden. I'll find a way out. Don't fight unless you have to. He turned a corner and almost collided with a group of Valerian soldiers. He ducked behind a pillar as they passed by, their armor glowing faintly. He knew that if they caught him, it would be over. They thought humans had betrayed their trust. Someone had planted false evidence, and now the fragile peace was falling apart. Meanwhile, Princess Lyra stood in the council hall, facing Lord Sereth and the other elders. Her calm face hid her fear. The council leader spoke in a cold voice. Your friendship with the human has brought this upon us. The humans have stolen our data. They are a danger to our world. Lyra shook her head. No, they did not. I know Ethan, he would never do such a thing. Sereth's silver eyes flashed with anger. You are blind, Princess. The human has changed you. Your emotions make you weak. She raised her voice, something no Ilarian royal had ever done in the council chamber. If caring is weakness, then maybe weakness is what our people need. Gasps filled the hall. The council was silent for a long time. Finally, Sereth said, You are no longer fit to speak for the crown. Guards, confine her to her chambers. The guards stepped forward. Lyra did not resist as they led her away. But inside, she was already planning her next move. In the lower halls of the palace, Ethan found a small storage room and hid inside. He tried to think of a way to reach his crew. His breathing was heavy and his mind was racing. Suddenly the door opened and a familiar face appeared. It was Lyra. She slipped inside quickly and closed the door. You should not still be here, she whispered. They are searching everywhere for you. Ethan looked at her in surprise. How did you get out? She smiled faintly. I am the princess. The guards forget that I have my own ways. He gave a short laugh, but it quickly faded. They think we stole from them. My team's trapped. We need to get off this planet. Lyra stepped closer. There is an old transport tunnel beneath the palace. It leads to the outer fields. From there, you can reach your ship. I can take you there, but we must go now. Ethan hesitated. If they catch you helping me, they'll call you a traitor. Her eyes softened. They already do. They moved quietly through the halls. The air was filled with the sound of distant alarms. The corridors were empty, but drones floated past now and then, scanning for intruders. Lyra guided him through narrow passages, her glowing robes fading into the shadows. Ethan followed close behind, careful not to make a sound. After what felt like hours, they reached a hidden gate. It opened to a tunnel lined with smooth blue light. The ground hummed gently beneath their feet. As they walked, Ethan spoke softly. "Why are you doing this for me?" Lyra kept her eyes ahead. "Because you showed me something my people forgot. You made me see that life is not about control or perfection. It's about feeling. About choice," he smiled. "Then you already changed more than you think." They finally reached the end of the tunnel. Beyond it lay the open plains of Alaris glowing under the two moons. In the distance, Ethan could see the dark shape of his ship. But between them and safety stood a line of Alarian guards. Lyra looked at him. "You can't fight them. They will kill you." Ethan took a deep breath. "Then what do you suggest?" She thought for a moment, then stepped forward and raised her hands. The guards stopped and bowed when they saw her. "Princess Lyra," one of them said, "you have been ordered to return to the palace. The human must be captured." Lyra's voice was strong. "I command you to stand down." "Let him pass." The guards hesitated. "We cannot." "The council's orders are clear," Ethan whispered. "Lyra, it's okay. I'll find another way." But before he could move, Lyra did something no one expected. She touched the pendant on her neck, a crystal symbol of royal power, and threw it to the ground. It shattered into pieces, glowing brightly. The guards froze in shock. In Ilarian law, breaking the royal pendant meant giving up all title and power. She turned to them and said, "If I am no longer your princess, then you have no right to command me." "Let him go." For a moment, no one moved. Then one of the younger guards lowered his weapon. The others followed slowly. Ethan grabbed her hand. "Let's go." They ran across the glowing field. The sound of the city alarms faded behind them. When they reached the ship, Ethan opened the ramp and his crew rushed out to meet him. They were tired but alive. Lyra stood at the edge of the ramp, looking back at her city. Her eyes shimmered with sadness. "They will call me a traitor now." Ethan looked at her gently. "Or maybe one day they'll call you a hero." She smiled faintly. "Humans always hope too much," he laughed softly. "And that's why we survive." The ship engines came to life. As they lifted off, the lights of Alaris grew smaller. Lyra watched until they disappeared into the stars. Deep inside, she knew her choice would change her world forever. And though fear filled her heart, so did something new, a fragile feeling that she could not name. It was the beginning of freedom. The stars stretched endlessly across the dark sky as the human ship floated quietly near the alien world. Ethan stood on the viewing deck, thinking about everything that had happened since he first met Princess Lyra. What started as a mission to save a damaged alien vessel had turned into something much deeper. He had learned about her people, her fears, and the weight of her crown, and somehow he had become part of her story. Lyra walked in softly, her silver robe glowing faintly under the light. Her steps were quiet, but Ethan always seemed to sense her presence. She looked different now, less like a ruler and more like someone who had found something precious. She stopped beside him and looked out at the stars. "You still wish to return to Earth?" she asked quietly. Ethan smiled, but there was sadness in his eyes. "Earth will always be home, but I'm not sure it's where I belong anymore." Lyra turned to face him. There was something tender in her expression. "You have done more for my world than anyone. You could stay. You would always be welcome here." Ethan looked at her and then at the distant blue glow of her planet. "Would your people accept a human among them?" She hesitated. "Some would not. But they will learn, as I have, that humanity is not what they believed. You showed us courage, kindness, and loyalty. Those things are more powerful than blood or origin." He laughed softly. "Coming from a princess, that means a lot." Lyra smiled shyly. "Not just a princess. A friend." Silence filled the room for a moment, peaceful and calm. The hum of the ship felt like the heartbeat of the galaxy around them. Then the communication light flashed. It was Commander Hale calling from the surface. "Ethan, the repairs on your ship are complete. You're free to leave whenever you're ready," the commander said. Ethan nodded, his throat tight. He ended the call and turned to Lyra. "I guess that's it then." Lyra's eyes shimmered. "You would go so soon?" "If I stay any longer, I might never leave," he said with a quiet laugh. She stepped closer, her voice soft. "Then why not stay?" He looked into her eyes. They were bright and full of warmth, but also filled with sadness. He could see the same conflict in her that he felt in himself. Because if I stay, I'll forget what I came from. And if I forget, then all of this, everything we fought for, won't mean anything. Lyra lowered her head. Humans and my kind are not meant to walk the same path. But I wish we could. He reached out and gently lifted her chin. Maybe not today, but someday someone will. Maybe what we started here will change things. She gave a small, trembling smile. You always find hope where there is none. That's what humans do best, he said. The docking bay was quiet as Ethan prepared to board his ship. A few of Lyra's guards stood nearby, their faces unreadable. Lyra stood at the edge of the ramp, her robe flowing gently. She looked like a vision from another world. Ethan turned to face her one last time. Will you remember me? He asked. Every day, she whispered. You showed me that beauty is not in appearance but in heart. When I asked if you found me ugly, I did not expect the answer you gave. He smiled at the memory. And I meant it. You were never ugly. You were just hidden behind fear and duty. Now I see you clearly. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. Then I will remember your words when I feel alone. Ethan took a deep breath. Goodbye, princess. Goodbye, human, she replied softly. The ship's engines came to life and the air shimmered around it. Lyra watched as it lifted off, leaving behind trails of light. She stood there long after it vanished from sight, her heart heavy but proud. She knew that her people would change, that one day humans and her kind might stand together. In the quiet of space, Ethan looked back at the small planet fading behind him. He thought of her words, of her eyes, and of the strange connection that had formed between two beings from different worlds. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew he would never forget her. As the ship entered the vast darkness, Ethan whispered to himself, Beauty isn't about form. It's about soul. And somewhere far below on her glowing world, Lyra stood beneath the stars and whispered the same words, as if the universe itself was listening. In that endless stretch of stars and silence, a bond between a human and an alien princess became a quiet legend, one that would echo through time, reminding all who heard it that understanding could bridge even the greatest of divides.